Have you ever noticed how many rich people seem unhappy and alone? How many of these billionaires you see on TV are filled with regret and misery despite having everything they could ever want? Well, there is a simple reason for this, and it is actually one of the greatest paradoxes in the world today. You see, when you have enough money to buy whatever you want, you become your own biggest enemy. And that's what's happening to all these billionaires. They literally have everyone else working for them, so their problems must be in their head, right? Wrong. The real reason why so many rich people are so sad and lonely is actually rooted in human psychology, which we'll go over shortly. But first, we need to understand that while money won't buy happiness, it will buy you power. You see, every single person you meet is just another opportunity to either help or harm you. However, if you have enough money, you become largely immune to other people's potential harm. That's because when you start making millions, there are many people who are worthy of being around. And when you have billions, there are even fewer. In fact, the only people who deserve to be in the circle of someone who has billions are those who can offer them more. And since most people can't, they end up being ignored or discarded like trash. It's a reality that most men will never have to deal with, but once you reach a certain level, you simply can't trust anyone. You can't afford to. For example, Jeff Bezos started his company in his garage and was able to build something special. But once he became the richest man in the world, no one from his past really cared about helping him anymore. They were all trying to take advantage of him instead. The same thing happened with Kanye West. Once he gained popularity, everyone loved him and wanted to be his friend. But then he made too much money and everyone changed. Some of his closest friends and family members turned against him and used his name to make money. And so did many others who had been pretending to be his friends for years. This is a harsh truth that every billionaire has to come to terms with, and it's part of the reason why so many of them keep their personal lives private. However, although this may sound like a blessing to most men, it's quite the opposite. In fact, it's one of the worst things that can happen to a man. Being alone is a fate worse than poverty, but it's something that all billionaires must endure. Take Howard Hughes, for example. He was one of the richest men in the world and had all the resources to satisfy his wildest desires. But he was so afraid of being poisoned or taken advantage of that he isolated himself in his mansion for years. Even though he had everything he could ever want, he was utterly miserable. And this is a story that repeats itself over and over again. Even Bill Gates, who is known for his genius intellect and business skills, admitted that being rich has its downsides. After all, he said, there are downsides to wealth. I don't feel that rich people are properly incentivized to give it away. He also emphasized that accumulating wealth becomes the primary focus, even more important than relationships, which is exactly what happens to billionaires. They race surrounded by people who love them only for their money, and it becomes difficult to find genuine love and companionship. This isn't just a feeling, either. There are studies that back it up. For example, a 2010 study published in the Journal of Positive Psychology found that beyond a certain income threshold, money doesn't buy happiness. In fact, once people earn enough to meet their basic needs, additional income is actually associated with decreased well-being. But now let us delve deeper into the psychological aspects of why so many rich people are so unhappy. First off, when you're rich, you have no purpose in life. That's because money becomes your only source of validation. But when you're broke, you're forced to rely on other sources of validation. When you're poor, you might be praised for your strength and resilience. When you're middle class, you're recognized for your contributions to society. And when you're rich, you're admired for your intelligence and business skills. But when you're filthy rich, none of these sources of validation apply to you anymore. And that's why billionaires are always looking for the next big thing. They need to constantly fill the void within them by seeking external achievements. But even when they achieve it, it's only temporary. For example, Elon Musk was recently named the richest man in the world, surpassing even Jeff Bezos. But what did he do next? Well, he sold nearly 7% of his Tesla stake for $6.5 billion. You heard that right. He literally sold billions of dollars worth of stock just because he had nothing better to do. He didn't need the money, nor did he have anything else to occupy his mind. That's the problem with being rich. Nothing challenges you mentally, physically, or emotionally. After all, why would it? Why put yourself through stress when you can easily buy your way out of any problem? The truth is that the human brain needs challenges to stay sharp and focused. But when you have all the money in the world, you don't need to challenge yourself at all. That's why so many billionaires end up becoming obsessed with their work. They literally have nothing else to do. Take Mark Zuckerberg, for example. He's worth tens of billions of dollars, yet he works more than 100 hours a week. The guy doesn't even take vacations. Why is that? Well, because he has nothing else to do. There's no other way to challenge himself. So he throws himself into his work, even though he shouldn't need to. Next, we have to remember that rich people are masters of escaping pain. When you're broke, you can't escape the pain of your reality. You might live in a bad neighborhood with high crime rates and have to worry about getting robbed. You might not have enough money to pay for food or shelter, and you might have to work long and hard just to make ends meet. But when you're rich, you can avoid all that pain. You can hire security to protect you and your family. You can live in a luxurious mansion and eat delicious food every day, and you don't have to work hard at all. In fact, your investments will generate more money while you enjoy your life. That means that rich people are able to escape the pain of reality more effectively than anyone else. And that's why so many of them turn to drugs or alcohol. They simply have nothing else to escape to. But once you remove the possibility of escaping pain, it all comes crashing down. That's what happened to Michael Jackson, for example. He used drugs for years to cope with the pain of his fame and fortune. But without drugs, he had nothing. And when he ran out of drugs, he became a shell of his former self. And finally, we have to remember that rich people can't fix the world. And that might sound like a good thing, but it's actually quite the opposite. The world is full of problems, from poverty and hunger to war and disease. And when you're broke, you can only solve some of these problems. Maybe you can donate some clothes to the homeless or buy some food for the hungry. But when you're rich, you can fix the world's problems entirely. And that's what most rich people try to do. They might fund research to find cures for diseases or set up charities to help the poor. But when they fail, they can be devastated. After all, they have the ability to change the world, and sometimes they just don't know what to do with it. These are the main reasons why rich people are so sad and lonely. They're faced with psychological challenges that no one else has to deal with, and it drives them crazy. Now, it's important to note that this doesn't mean that being rich is bad. On the contrary, being rich is great. It means that you have the ability to make a huge impact on the world. But it also means that you have to deal with some serious psychological challenges. If you're not strong enough, it will destroy you. However, if you're truly strong, you can use it to make the world a better place. Just look at someone like Bill Gates. He could have spent his life partying and enjoying the finer things in life, but instead, he devoted himself to making the world a better place. And that's something that most billionaires can't do. They simply don't have the drive or ambition. So remember, brothers, being rich isn't all it's cracked up to be. Sure, it's nice having money, but it's not worth sacrificing your mental health or breaking up with your family and friends. If you're lucky enough to become rich, you should use it to make the world a better place. After all, that's what life is all about. By the way, don't forget to show some love and hit like for the algorithm to see the next best way to level up as a man. Watch these videos here.